everybody, we made it to week 2. What book would I take if I knew I was going to be stranded on a desert island? I would take the Chronicles of Narnia, I think, because every time I read them, I relate to a different character, so it wouldn't just be me reading the story. I think because it's an allegory, as I change in my life, I tend to relate to the struggles of different characters at different times. Beth, I love this question. Probably Edinburgh, because I really like the way that the city is on a hill with the castle at the top and then sort of like layers of things underneath, and it has a cool mixture from what I've seen of the old and traditional and new. And also, if I lived there, I could probably be best friends with J.K. Rowling. We'd probably start our own clique with the twins from the Proclaimers. Christian, the perfect album with no songs that I skip. Bon Iver's first album, For Emma Forever Ago, I listened to almost exclusively and like on repeat for almost 2 years. So it's a little bit tired now, but still, if I give it a little bit of a break, I think it's always going to be one of my favorite albums just because it so perfectly encapsulates winter for me. It just sounds like winter. I also really love Fiona Apple's Extraordinary Machine. When I first listened to it, there were only a handful of tracks that I really loved, but the more that I listened to the album, the more I started to love every single track, and now I love the album. I know, especially after saying that Joe was going to be my best friend when I moved to Edinburgh, everyone is probably going to think this is a cop-out, but if I could have one tame animal as a pet, I think I really probably would have an owl. Probably a barn owl, because I really love their like golden plumage, like when they're stretched out and you can see the sun going through their pinions. It's really gorgeous. Something embarrassing as a kid that I've changed as an adult. This one I really had to think about because a lot of the things that embarrassed me as a kid still embarrass me. One thing that's changed is that I used to have an extensive working vocabulary. According to Autumn Folk Legend, I once called a doll exquisite in a store at 3 years old. But when I got to 4th grade, there was a lot of bullying that went on. They decided that I cared more about popularity than I did about vocabulary, and I made a vow that I would never use a word over 2 syllables again, and I didn't for years. And a lot of the vocabulary that I probably otherwise would have had, I still understand it. I know what it means when I read it, but it's just not like, it doesn't, see, just like this, it doesn't readily pop into my mouth. It's one of those things that I wish that I could go back and say to 4th grade me. You'll want that later. Later, you won't care about what some 4th grade boy thought about you. But, you know, you can't know things until you know them. Now it's time to move on to a theme, because now introductions are sort of out of the way, like we've broken the ice at least, and we can start on themes. So you guys excited? Themes? This week we're going to talk about the spectrum from introversion to extroversion. For those of you who don't know, introversion means that when you are around people it drains you and your battery gets filled up by being by yourself. Extroversion is when you feel more energized from being around people and you start to feel like you need to be around people when you're on your own. Most people are not entirely introverted or entirely extroverted, but fall somewhere on the spectrum in between. After just one evening of being around people, I feel so utterly spent that I need to spend hours, sometimes days, even up to a week, building back up before I can have another social encounter. I really wish I knew how to moderate it. I think it has something to do with the idea that I have that I should be fully engaged in everything that I'm doing. For an introvert, fully engaging in being social is a real challenge. That doesn't mean that I don't like being around people. I do like being around people. It just means I need a lot of recovery time. I could probably talk all day about what being an introvert in an extroverted world is like, but I'll leave the expansion of that idea to any other introverts in the week. Bye, apple posers!